back in another episode of the HuskerNation Nebraska Gems podcast. We are a little bit later than we expected to be. I am David. As you see, I brought him back. The man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Tom Stevens is still here. He hasn't ran off yet. Tom, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you, man?
I'm good. I was a little stressed out yesterday after we had our technical issues, couldn't get this thing on board. But before we get into this, I want to let some people know out there, our listeners. First of all, make sure you're following me on Twitter at SandoDFS and Tom at 937 Tom Stevens, because we've got some big things coming for this channel. We're going to be working on a little bit of rebranding. We're going to be working on several new projects. And you don't want to miss out on any of that. So just make sure you're following us on Twitter, keeping up to date, because the HuskerNation podcast is going to change, at least the name of it, as we transition into some other projects that Tom and I would like to do. But we want you guys to be a part of it. We don't want you to miss anything. So, again, make sure you're following us on Twitter. When you download this podcast, make sure you like and subscribe. Subscribing is the best way to make sure that you don't miss anything that Tom and I are going to put out. We apologize for being, again, a day late. We had a whole big rundown from the weekend of the NCAA tournament ready to go, but we had some technical difficulties. We'll try to not let that happen again. But before we get into what obviously now has become the news of the week, Tom, Nebraska-wise anyway, with Bryce McGowan, let me just go back anyway and touch on this NCAA tournament. We had said last week on the podcast we thought it was about as wide open as any tournament we'd ever seen. Do you still feel that way? It kind of looks that way to me.
Yeah, it feels. I mean, you've got the story. It seems like every year it's Loyola one year, and this year I guess St. Peter's, which busted my bracket. I had
me
Kentucky.
Too.
I had Kentucky going not only to the Final Four, I had them winning it all against Arizona. So the very first night, St. Peter's blows that out of the water for me. But you have those stories every year, and that's kind of a cool story. I guess I thought the Duke, obviously, thing with Krzyzewski and the very talented team this year. I didn't know with all that pressure that they would be as good as they have been so far.
They didn't handle it. They didn't handle it very well in the ACC tournament and with Coach K's last game. So I agree.
No, the North Carolina lost the final game of the season, then the ACC tournament. I didn't think that maybe they were any longer the favorite, but now maybe they've kind of gone back up there, at least for some and maybe for me. It's one of those tournaments that I don't see a great team. Maybe Arizona was that for me. By the way, good call for you. You had Michigan. You liked Michigan from the very start, and they're in the Sweet 16. Maybe one of the better stories of the NCAA tournament. Didn't know if they should have even gotten a bid, and now they're in the Sweet 16. You get two teams, I guess, in the Sweet 16 from the Big Ten, Purdue and Michigan. But I don't see a great team. I see a really talented team in Arizona. I see a Duke team that probably has the ability to win it all. Outside of that, I don't know if I see a great basketball team. Do you?
Well, I'm with you. I'm a Duke fan, as you know. I'm that guy that everybody hates. I'm actually the Duke, Laker, and Cowboy fan.
Yeah.
But I just thought too much pressure on these kids. I didn't think Duke had I didn't think he had one of his better, best teams ever anyway in Mike Krzyzewski. But now that they got through the opening weekend, I'm back on board that this team actually could win it. I'm with you. I had Kentucky winning the entire thing against Kansas. And John Calipari has proven once again, I make a mental note, he doesn't win big games. He gets out-coached in big games is what happens. And how he ever won that national title is now starting to look like a complete fallacy. He had some really good teams with Memphis that should have went farther than they did. So I'm out on John Calipari for the rest of my life. I did like Michigan. I just thought that they had, Michigan 10 games into the Big Ten season this year was like, oh my God, how are we going to beat this team? And you're right. There were so many people that didn't even think they should be in. especially with the Juwan Howard shenanigans at the end of the season, that they should have punished them and not let them be in the tournament. But they got a lot of talent, Tom. And if they shoot well, they're scary. I guess Kansas for me probably stands out alongside with Duke now. But I'm watching out for guys like Kelvin Sampson and Jay Wright. Jay Wright has been there before. Jay Wright he's won the national championship, and he's never had the most talented team any time that he won the national championship. And they lead the nation in free throw shooting. That is huge, because you know how these games, so many of them end up in the last minute and a half. Teams down by 3 or 4, and we're fouling to catch up with the point difference, and those guys are money.
Yeah, so, it's interesting we didn't mention the number 1 overall seed in Gonzaga. I don't know.
You're right.
You trust them. I mean, they were in the national title game last year. They fall to Baylor. Baylor's already out of it. You mentioned Michigan, Villanova's. I don't see Duke losing to Texas Tech, certainly in the next round. I think Duke is on their way to the Final Four. And, Arizona looks like a team that's really talented. You mentioned Jay Wright. He's obviously been there and won a national title before. But again, outside of Duke and their talent, I don't see a lot of great teams.
And maybe, you know what? Maybe it is Gonzaga. Maybe we should just all say, oh, my God, this is the year for Gonzaga. They got really close last year, and maybe it is. I don't know why I just dismissed them. I guess it's just because they've never actually won it before, and until I see them win it, I'm still going to say, probably unfairly, that you're playing in too small of a conference during the regular season. But you know what? They don't have those kind of players, so maybe I'm completely full of baloney there. Right. Okay. Yesterday, as we're preparing to do this show, we get the news that I'm surprised that some people were actually surprised that Bryce McGowens, of course, has made it official, and he is going to go play professional NBA basketball next year. You couldn't have been surprised by this, Tom.
Right? Oh, no. I thought he was a one and done all along. He did have a much better year than I thought he was going to have. Yeah. And especially starting the year, he looked lost, quite frankly, to me. Yeah. I think he improved. And I think Nate Lenzer gets a lot of the credit. And he's probably the one coach on this staff that will stay. Maybe it's Armand Gates as well. But Nate Lenzer got guys better, and he's definitely one of them. I think Bryce owes him a thank you because I think he led the Big Ten in free throws made. He was very good getting to the rim. Not a great shooter. I don't think he's an NBA three-point shooter yet. That's a possibility. I think it's possible that I think he's projected as the 30th pick in the first round of the NBA draft. I think it's possible that he ends up playing his first season in the G League. Yep. But I do think he's going to get a hefty contract, and I think he has the ability to be a really good player. He needs to get bigger and stronger, but he has the ability to be a very good NBA player. I mean, we've seen a couple of guys make it to the league, Delano Banton, Isaiah Roby, that I don't think they have the talent of Bryce McGowens. I think he's going to be a very good player. He's not obviously going to be a top 15, 20 pick in the NBA draft, but that guy could play in the NBA. He's got some stuff to work on. He's got to get bigger and stronger, and he's got to be a much better three-point shooter. But I think he's an NBA player.
I do too. And I know the projections right now are top 30, maybe. I think that once Bryce gets in front of these general managers and these player personnel people, I think there's a chance that he could move up in the top 20 type of range. You've been around him. You've interviewed him. He's a good kid. He's a grounded kid. He's from a basketball family. He's obviously a hard worker. I just think when people see the whole package with Bryce McGowens and who he is as a person, you're right. He has to get bigger. He has to get stronger, and he has to be a better shooter. He's 19 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, Isaiah Roby left here and I wasn't for sure he was going to be an everyday NBA player. He
started
for the Thunder last night again, in their game yesterday. He's a starting center in the NBA on a bad basketball team. Bryce McGowan, I think, has more talent. I think you're right, and I think he has more talent than Delano Banton. And the fact that he's 19 years old, I think by the time he's 23, I could see him being a 2 or a 3 on a decent NBA team. Bradley Beal comes to mind. A guy that he's going to have to improve his shooting quite a bit. He's going to have to learn how to play better defense. But I think with development in the right system, I think he's absolutely going to be a key player in the NBA.
Yeah, he's again. It's put it on repeat. He needs to get bigger and stronger, but he makes free throws. He can get to the line. He's probably a 2. He's
right,
maybe a 3 in the NBA. Probably a 2. Yeah. But I think he's got skill. And again, hand it to Nate Lenzer, who made him much better. A lot of guys, even top 50 type players out of high school, don't play that well in the Big Ten. He had a chance to be Big Ten Freshman of the Year. He was Newcomer of the Year in the Big Ten. He's a really good, solid prospect. Most guys coming out of their freshman year into the NBA have a lot to work on, and he's just one of those.
Yeah, you mentioned the G League. I could see by the end of next year he being one of those guys, and we're seeing it a lot in the NBA. I follow the NBA, as you know, every day. I'm big into the NBA fantasy, so I'm playing fantasy basketball every day. So I've got my eye on it. There are tons of guys this time of year that are going back and forth in between the G League on 10-day contracts. And I could certainly see Bryce by this time next year being one of those guys that's up with the club, then back, and then up, and then maybe gets to stay up, as the teams start to make their way into the playoffs. We shall see. Time will tell. However, Bryce is gone. So where are we at now, Tom, with Nebraska basketball? It seems like a mess to me. You mentioned Nate Lesnar, and I think you're right. I think he's the best coach on the staff, including the head coach, frankly. But I assume Nate's going to stay. But right now, for those of you who aren't following Nebraska basketball all that closely, we have now lost Matt Abdelmassih, who is the key recruiter, was the lead. He was Fred Hoiberg's recruiter, his right-hand man. He's the reason that Bryce McGowan's and Trey McGowan's and CJ Wilcher and all those guys even came to Nebraska.
Sure.
We've lost Doc Sadler, and we don't think Armand Gates is going to probably come back. I don't anyway. I think he's going to move on. So we need some new coaches, and now we need some new players. With Bryce leaving, I don't know what Trey's going to do, but it's critical. And then we've got recruits that now we're not sure if they're going to come here, Tom, because of the exit of Matt Abdelmassih. So where do we stand? What the hell's going on?
Well, I do worry about keeping this class, which was a top 25 class, by the way. Yeah. I think according to Rivals, 24/7 Sports, Rivals both had it pretty highly rated. And Abdelmassih put it together. Now, I think the problem with Abdelmassih is he's put together talent, but he hasn't put together classes that necessarily mesh. There's not been much chemistry. I mean, a third grader can see that by watching Nebraska basketball.
Right. That's a great point, Tom. That's a great point.
Yeah. So, Alonzo Verge, I think, for example, could have played and maybe will play in the NBA. He's a talented kid, but it took him the entire year to figure it out. And he wasn't a point guard. Maybe he is at some point. He's certainly talented, but the chemistry in Nebraska basketball has not been good. And I think that's one of the reasons that Matt Abdelmassih is no longer here. But he did recruit a guy like Blaise Keita, I should say, 6'11", top JUCO center in the entire country. And now does he stay? Because he did build a fantastic relationship with Matt Abdelmassih. Does Ramel Lloyd stay? One of the better point guards in the entire country. I don't know. Maybe he does. Maybe Fred and Lenzer together are able to convince a guy like that to stay in this class and go forward. I just don't know. I think Sam Grissel
There you
the
go.
North Dakota State transfer is a big get for
Oh,
Nebraska.
it's a huge deal as far as I'm concerned. It's huge.
He's a Lincolnese kid, can play the point, can play the off guard, is maybe a poor, not a great replacement for Bryce McGowan, but certainly a good one, and a guy that averaged 14 points a game. He could have picked his school. Had a Creighton offer, had an Ohio State offer, many offers throughout college basketball. So that's a nice get for Nebraska basketball for next year. But maybe Derek Walker stays. I think he does. But it's a roster that I don't know that you can, even with, having some decent talent on it, you can be highly optimistic that it's going to mesh together, because they haven't.
Well, exactly.
Years.
What gives me hope? What gives me hope that Fred can put the damn thing together, even if we get the right type of pieces? I'm just so frustrated with it. You bring up Sam, though. I mean, Creighton was after this kid. A lot of people were after this kid. He could go right now and play overseas basketball and make a whole lot of money. Mm-hmm. But he's coming here to play, and I think that's a good sign. Maybe him coming here influences a guy like Blaze Keita or Romel Lloyd, or those are the two guys in the class that I think are key. I mean, they're the two biggest names. They're the two best players as far as I'm concerned with the incoming guys. But you're right. We should get something out of him. He is a good player. Sam is a good basketball player. But we got to find a way to make the pieces fit and not have all of this individual basketball going on. You're a season ticket holder. You're there every week. You're there every game. There's just basic crap that we just don't do, Tom. I mean, it's like basic basketball crap that we don't do.
I think that I think this is one of the reasons that Matt Abnasi is gone now. He sold the NBA. And quite frankly, it has worked. He got Delano Banton, which I didn't think it was possible, into the NBA.
I know.
He's going to get Bryce McGowan's into the NBA. That's what they promised. Hey, we'll get you to the league. They've accomplished that. But 7 wins, and then 10 wins ain't going to get it done. That's what it's all about. It's not about getting guys to the NBA. It's about winning college basketball games. And this 5-out launch 3-pointer crap has got to stop.
With optional defense.
Just because it's an open shot doesn't make it a good shot, especially when you can't make the shot. I think Lat Mayon has a chance to come back next year. I don't know how helpful that he'll be, maybe a 10 to 15 minute guy. But you've got to find a way to play defense, to rebound, to be rugged and dive on the floor for loose balls and play it in a league that demands that you play with heart and toughness every single night and make shots, quite frankly.
Yeah, this is the Big Ten. It's a Big Ten league. It's always going to be a big man, rough, physical league. And we are so ill prepared to play that way. I mean, it's mind-boggling that you could be that freaking far behind, and any competition that we have in the Big Ten. I don't know. I shouldn't even talk about this stuff because I get so mad because I want Nebraska to be good at basketball. I had no doubt we were going to be good at basketball when we hired Fred Hoiberg, and God, now it's just went so far down the toilet. I don't know if there's a snake long enough to clean it out. Yeah,
but let's face it. Trev Alberts did the same thing with Fred Hoiberg that he did with Scott Frost. I'm going to bring you back. And I agreed with the decision, but you're going to have to give me something. The money goes from $3.5 million a year to 3.2, something like that. He had to give up a good portion of his buyout, which is great. You're going to have – I don't think he forced – that is, Trev Alberts forced Fred Hoiberg to make those decisions, but he caused him to look inward and say, is this really going to work? Doc Sadler is a special assistant? Probably not. He's not even doing much coaching anymore, or hadn't before he left the staff.
No, and wasn't Wasn't he like our main defensive guy the first year?
He was, and then he became the special assistant, and that was he moved farther. I mean, it did seem like Fred, one of the first guys that he would talk to was Doc Sadler during timeouts, and so I think he was still valuable. But Fred realizes that if he's going to get this thing fixed, it's probably not going to be a 65-year-old Doc Sadler that gets it done for him.
Yeah, you're right.
And let's face it, when it was effective at Iowa State, when Fred made that turnaround at Iowa State, they were one of the very first schools in the country to recruit transfers. Now everybody's doing it. Duke recruits transfers now, and that was unheard of back in the day. So Nebraska's not getting the cream of the crop as far as the transfer market is concerned. We love Grissel. I think that's a
really good point. You know what? I didn't think about it like that, Tom. Iowa State, nobody else was going into we didn't call it the transfer portal back then.
No.
We were when Fred was doing it with transfers back then, the other schools weren't even paying attention to the guys that were transferring.
No. It was considered taboo. It was considered that guy's had, issues here or there.
Right.
And there's a reason he's transferring, so therefore we don't want him. There was that
a great point
with transfers, and now everybody's doing it. You have to do it. Look at Iowa State now; they're back. They got some really good transfers. They're in the Sweet 16. But you had T.J. Otzenberger. He won 2 games last year.
2 games,
but he got the right transfers this year, and now they're in the Sweet 16. Yep. And Iowa State is back with the same recipe that Fred Hoiberg had when he was there.
That's great.
But you got to get the right guys. You have to do it with transfers still, but you have to do it with the right transfers. And they were just grabbing guys here or there, putting them on a roster and hoping that it's stuck. And it's got to be more well thought out. And I think that's where Nate Lenzer comes in. And I think Grissel's a great start. Sam Grissel is a great start. He's the kind of guy, a Nebraska kid that actually cares about Nebraska basketball. Isn't thinking. I don't think he's thinking about the NBA, which has happened too much in the first 3 years under Fred Hoiberg.
Yep, that's a great point. It's really a good point. I didn't think about the transfer stuff in that vein until you brought it up. So I'm really curious now to see where this will go. And Iowa State is a great example. It's a great example of why maybe we can still have some hope that this team can go somewhere next year. They won 2 basketball games last year. Before we move on from Nebraska basketball, I know you've got some contacts, some people, you've got some sources. Do you just real quickly have any sense of whether or not you think that Blaise Keita or Ramel Lloyd will still come here? Have you heard anything?
I have. I think they're really thinking about this thing. I mean, I think Robin Washut of Husker Online wrote a column about this just a few days ago.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter where a couple of them did not sound real positive.
No, and Keita's got a lot of options. So does Lloyd. Either one of them. And both those guys have NBA aspirations. And that's, again, what Matt Abdelmassih sold. But Fred Hoiberg can still sell that. Nate Lenzer was there. Fred Hoiberg played in the league, coached in the league. So I would say it's a coin flip on both those guys.
Yep.
It looks like the rest of the class is staying, but Nebraska needs to be able to rebound, and that's where Blaise Keita comes in. Lloyd, they need a true point guard. Alonzo Verge struggled in that area for most of the season before he finally got it figured out a little bit toward the end of the year. So those guys are critical to this class, those 2 guys. We'll see.
Time will tell.
I honestly do not know.
Yeah, time will tell. And, of course, Tom and I will we'll be keeping an eye on it just like the rest of you guys will to see if we can keep this class intact and try and have some kind of hope for next year. I'd be remiss, Tom, if I didn't ask you. There's a lot of stuff going on in the NFL, the free agency that has happened since the last time you and I have visited. I was going to simply ask you about your Vikings
Whew.
and make that a regular segment here on our show. What does Tom think about his Vikings this week? Because it directly affects my life in the fact that you made my son a Vikings fan as well. Thank you. So I have to deal with it every day too. But damn, man. Let's see. Baker Mayfield wasn't going to come back anyway, he says.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson's a Brown. Matt Ryan is a Colt as of yesterday. You should have some hope. Devontae Adams is not a Packer anymore. So basically what the Packers did in this offseason, in this big year to make Aaron Rodgers happy and to make sure that he stayed and take one more run at this thing, is basically what you did is you lost your best player and you gave your quarterback a raise.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, look, I know what Aaron Rodgers, 38? Is he 38?
38. I think that's right.
You had to do it. He's the freaking MVP 2 years in a row. You had to do it. You had to satisfy. They didn't get
better.
And they gave him all the money, and so now you don't have Devontae Adams. I have nothing to say that's good about the Vikings. They signed Kirk Cousins, obviously $35 million guaranteed. He's we mentioned that I think on the last podcast.
He's made like more money than God, you mentioned. Yeah,
he's made more money since 2016 than anybody in the NFL, and his record is 59-59-2.
Yep, that makes complete sense.
He's not a top 30 player in the league. And I don't have a lot of hope that the Vikings are going to be good. I like Kevin O'Connell. I think it's a good hire. But the Packers will still be good. Aaron Rodgers he's not maybe the best quarterback in the NFL, but he's certainly top 5 still.
Well, he might be the best talent-wise, but look, I've got too much evidence now. I've got too many years of evidence that says that Aaron Rodgers does not win big playoff games.
No. One Super Bowl.
One
Super Bowl victory. It's kind of Brett Favre's story.
Was that Mike Holmgren that he won that Super Bowl with, or was it McCarthy?
No, it was McCarthy. It was McCarthy.
Oh, it was McCarthy? Okay.
It was McCarthy. But yeah, I mean, he has one suit. It's kind of a Brett Favre type story. You have 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks back to back, and you've got 2 Super Bowls out of those guys. You probably should have 5 or 6 between those 2 dudes if you're a Packer fan. He's not always had the most talent around. I think he had a gripe when he said he would like to have more say over the last couple of years, that he hasn't always had guys on the roster that he would like to have or like to have had kept by the Packers.
But when he gripes, it sounds like whining, and that's why nobody. Yeah.
Let's face it, I don't like the Packers. I don't like Aaron Rodgers. I didn't like Brett Favre until he ended up as a Viking. And then I loved him because the guy played his heart out. And I would love to have Aaron Rodgers as a Viking. But they're still the best. They're still going to be the best team in that division.
Probably, but
it includes the Vikings and Chicago and Detroit. I mean, it's a terrible division outside of the Packers. So he's still going to get into the playoffs. And who knows what happens once you get into the playoffs. But you're right. They spent all their money on one guy, and now what's left over?
I'm curious what you thought. Are you more surprised that Deshaun Watson is a Brown, or are you more surprised that once the grand jury did not indict him on these criminal charges, even though he still faces all of these civil suits, that teams just like once they heard that, it was like, we don't give a damn. It is it's like shark piranha in the water, right? It's like, okay, he's available. Let's go get him. Without any thought whatsoever, it seems to me that he still has 22 sexual assault allegations civilly against him. But it was like, we're not even thinking about that anymore. Who can give him the most money?
Right. I mean, what is it? $230 million, and it's all guaranteed.
All guaranteed. I didn't even know you could do that in the NFL.
Well, and you had Cleveland with the bogus statement. We did our due diligence. We did our research, and this guy, we have full confidence that this is the dude. We believe is. Come on, there's 22 women and probably 28 more. There's apparently not enough evidence for criminal charges, even though that's questionable, but 22 civil suits, and they gave up the farm. They decided Baker Mayfield was not the guy. 3 first-round draft picks, and a second and a third
and a fifth. I was like, here's it's like Mike Ditka.
Yeah.
When he saw Ricky Williams, here, just take all my draft picks.
Yeah, forever. And quite frankly, he's talent-wise, he's that good. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler.
He is that good.
He's really that good. And there's no comparison. Baker Mayfield versus Deshaun Watson. Baker's was okay at times. Obviously, he had the shoulder thing this year. He was not.
And I think that was a real thing. I really do. I think he was.
He was in a sling. There's no doubt about it. It was a real thing. But if you have a chance to get Deshaun Watson and you have all that talent on defense, that running game, you feel like you're a player away, and that player is always in the NFL a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
If you're talking, everybody wants Deshaun Watson's talent.
Yeah.
Not many people want that kind of baggage.
Yeah.
I'm still wondering if it's worth it.
There's got to be. I mean, I don't know. I'm 50 some years old. I've seen a lot in the NFL. There's got to be at least some kind of suspension coming, doesn't there? Something.
If you're talking about civil suits and not criminal suits, I'm not sure how you can.
Well, look, this isn't. Hey, my neighbor built a fence and came onto my property, and now I want him to take the fence down. It's women talking about rape.
Yeah, I know. It's a bad deal. And I don't have a lot of confidence that he's the best guy in the world. But you're not talking about criminal charges.
You're right. He's that good.
He's that good. And I know it. The Cleveland fan base is very mixed, and Baker was, the progressive commercials. He was very popular. Those were great commercials.
I'm gonna miss those commercials. Yeah, I'm gonna miss those commercials.
I am too.
Good.
But he was even healthy. I didn't look at him and say that's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Yeah. That's a guy that could lead you to the promised land. Deshaun Watson's that guy. I'm wondering mentally if he's going to be that guy going forward.
Yeah. It's a good point.
That's a lot of baggage to carry around.
Yeah,
it is a lot to carry around.
Are the Colts better today?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a guy that should have won if not, Tom Brady hadn't been the other quarterback. He should have a Super Bowl ring.
If Kyle Shanahan hadn't have been his offensive coordinator.
Yeah. Right.
God.
Right. If they could have gotten maybe one more first down, they win that game.
Maybe don't drop back 10 yards and throw it. I mean, crazy with a 24-point lead that you would not do that. But
I would take Matt Ryan on the Vikings in a heartbeat. They gave up a 3rd-round pick for that guy.
A 3rd-round pick.
After all of this.
Pick. Yeah.
I mean, he's 100 times better. I don't know what happened to Carson Wentz, but he's 100 times better than Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz isn't that good. He's a head case. He's a prima donna. He can't handle competition, obviously. He's obviously one of those guys that's been told his entire life how great he is and that he should have everything he needs and nobody's as good as him. Carson Wentz, I don't know. He had like 7-10 good games, and then after that, and he got hurt, which is unfortunate. He tore his knee. But Carson Wentz is a head case. I have not heard one ex-teammate anywhere come out and stand up for Carson Wentz ever.
No. Yeah, and good luck with the Washington Commanders.
What the hell kind of a name is that?
I don't know why they would want him, but I think
don't either.
But the
with
Colts
Ryan Fitzpatrick there, I mean, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah, I don't see it. But the Colts, I mean, Jonathan Taylor might be the best. I think he is. Outside of Derrick Henry, you can debate the best running back in the NFL.
You absolutely can debate that.
That's a very good offensive line. That's a very good defense. I would put the Colts in the top 5, 7 of Super Bowl contenders now. Yep. Matt Ryan just made them a Super Bowl contender, in my opinion.
Yep. And you know what, Tom? This is nuts. I really wasn't thinking about it like this until I heard, I don't know if it was Adam Schefter or somebody talking about it. Maybe it was Tony Kornheiser on PTI last night. How freaking good is the AFC right now?
Wow.
I mean, Russell Wilson to the Broncos. Now, Matt Ryan is a Colt. Deshaun Watson is a Brown. I don't know what you think about Mitchell Trubisky. He's not on the level of those guys, but I think with good coaching and a good organization, he could be good. I mean, you've got the AFC West is stupid right now.
Yeah.
Derek Carr's a good quarterback. I don't care what anybody says. Derek Carr's a good quarterback.
Right. And the Chiefs gave Pat Mahomes $500 million. And
got him a new receiver.
Yeah, and they got a new receiver. I mean, you're talking about the West. And Joe Burrow's not going anywhere.
No.
They're signing the offensive line out the wazoo. And they needed to. Obviously, they needed to go get offensive linemen.
And they need, with an offensive line, that team is freaking scary because it's the only weak part of their team last year.
They did it with Mears. They had Burrow and Chase, and they had some good receivers, but how they got to the Super Bowl and almost won it, I have no idea.
I know they led the league in sacks, right?
Yeah. Their defense was very good.
No, I mean they led the league in giving up sacks.
Oh,
I think.
Yeah.
Or at least when they got to the playoffs, of all the teams that were left in the playoffs, they were like the worst when it came to allowing sacks because Burrow was getting sacked like 7 times a game, something like that. What normally teams that let their quarterback get creamed don't go to Super Bowls, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I mean it's what they did. And Zach Taylor gets a lot of credit. I mean, that guy went from almost getting fired, nearly probably should have gotten fired, got another year, got to the Super Bowl, probably way ahead of schedule. And you're right. The AFC is absolutely loaded. I mean, if you're picking a team to come out of the AFC, you probably still go with the Chiefs. Probably.
I suppose just because of Mahomes.
10 different teams.
Yep. I agree. It's going to be interesting. You are listening here to the HuskerNation podcast. I am David Sanderson. That other voice you hear is the legend Tom Stevens. And we hope that you'll be joining us here on a regular basis. As I announced at the top of the show here, we've got some changes coming. We've got a little bit of rebranding coming, some new ways of thinking, some different type of shows that we're going to be bringing you along with what we're doing right now. So we want to make sure that you guys are with us for the entire ride. You can do that best by following us on Twitter. Tom is at 937 Tom Stevens. I am at Sando DFS. And the other best way to do it is to make sure you're subscribing to this channel. So hit the like button down there below. Hit the subscribe button. That helps us out a bunch. And make sure you watch for us. If you're not on YouTube, watch for us on other platforms because we are on Apple. We are on Spotify. And we're going to have a lot of content that we're bringing you guys here in the new future. So we're really excited about it. Tom, before we get out of here, I think it's legally we have to talk about Nebraska football. But I want to talk about Nebraska football because we're back into it in spring today. They're going to practice. We're going to hear from some coaches later today. And you are actually going to attend practice Thursday. So you'll be able to give us hopefully some insight on how well they stretch and things like that.
That's right. We'll get to see some stretching. maybe a few punts. They start now with special teams. Actually, that'll be interesting. Special teams.
That's weird.
Nebraska supposedly has special teams.
That's weird.
I doubt we're going to see much. Scott Frost has not shown much since he's been here. Not that it would have mattered. I mean, we've seen the results on the field. But it'll be fun to see, what Casey Thompson looks like. And a new improved Omar Manning. They've got some wide receivers that are interesting. Jacques Jant, I think, he looks like Jerome Bennis, for crying out loud. He's going to be Jerome Bennis.
I'll drink that Kool-Aid.
Yeah. I mean, it's another offseason that Nebraska is winning again.
Yep. You said it yesterday.
This is I am interested in Mark Whipple. I think it was a smart move with the hire of both Mickey Joseph and Mark Whipple and Applewhite. I think they've gotten some good coaches. Hopefully Scott Frost can stop being an offensive coordinator, totally give up the car keys to Mark Whipple, become more of a CEO. And this looks more like a team that's actually a team, both offensively, defensively, special teams. I think that's my hope this year. This is a team that should get out of bed and win 6 games, right? They should win 6 games with this schedule, especially. It's not very hard. I think, 8, 9 is realistic. They won't win that because the culture has not been built. I don't know that these guys. I'm not going to give up on that.
I'm not going to give up on 8 or 9 wins yet, just because of the schedule and because, man, I know we win the offseason. I mean, I'm already talking myself into it. I swear to God. I'm not going to do this every year. And it's like, by the time they start fall practice, I'll probably have them undefeated. There just are you have to acknowledge there's some good things going on down there. You mentioned the coaching, Mark Whipple and Mickey Joseph. We've got an upgrade in talent. I just want it to be true so bad that I'm making it true in my mind, and it's probably a dangerous thing. Let's pretend for a second you could watch the entire practice Thursday, and they would let you see everything you want to see, and you could hear all the coaches talking and interaction with the players. But they said, Tom, we got to limit you to 2 things. We're going to give you total access to 2 areas. What 2 are you picking?
Well, I think we know. I mean, you've obviously lost some weapons defensively. I think Damian Daniels on the defensive line, Ben Stilley, those are big. DeAndre Thomas. But I'm still confident that they'll be decent defensively. I think Luke Reimer is a very good linebacker. I think that Nick Henrich, I think the linebackers are fine. I think they're going to have enough in the secondary. Tommy Hill, you're hearing a lot of to be the other side of Newsome. So I feel good about the defense. Let's face it. We want to see this offense be the real deal. Casey Thompson threw more touchdowns than anybody. He statistically was the best quarterback in the Big 12 last year. What does Mark Whipple do with him? Are they able to run the football and, stop the run? I want to see Nebraska be efficient running the football. And I want to see a quarterback that looks good at the start of the season and then gets better throughout the season. Let's face it. Nebraska has
crazy talk.
What's that?
That's crazy talk.
Yeah, you're talking crazy.
Kooky.
Mario Verduzco has been the biggest disappointment of the Scott Frost era. Nebraska quarterbacks have not gotten better. And it's been, you could go into the Bo Pelini era as well. I mean, Taylor Martinez.
I don't know if they maintained themselves during Mario Verduzco. I swear to God.
Yeah. How they ever saw Luke Gifford as a quarterback, I don't get it. McCaffrey. I'm sorry. Luke McCaffrey as a quarterback. I just don't. He was not a quarterback. And that's what I want to see. I want to see quarterbacks who look like they know what they're doing, who look composed, who play well. And we probably will go to the spring game and say, wow, we found our guy.
Oh, there he is.
Guy, and there's going to be a lot of hype going into fall camp, coming out of spring. But let's face it, if they found their quarterback, they finally have in Casey Thompson, this should be a team that gets out of bed and wins 6 games.
Yep. And you know what? I think it's okay to feel like that. I mean, we thought we needed an upgraded quarterback. We went and found Casey Thompson. I want him to be the guy. Mm-hmm. I want him to be the guy that doesn't throw interceptions with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter to receivers that are not even close to wide open. I want to go to spring and feel like, okay, yeah, he's the guy. Whether it's Kool-Aid or not. You did an interview yesterday, and I was listening to it, and it struck me, and you've said this before. I've heard you say this before. We're debate what this football team needs to be, what it's going to be, all that. But I think you kind of hit it at its core yesterday when you said, you know what? Nebraska fans just want to watch a game and see good football. We know what good football looks like. Mm-hmm. We just want to see good football. Win or lose, we would like to just see good football.
We'd like to see a team that lines up correctly, that doesn't commit 15 penalties in a game, doesn't have a game won. Oh no, there's a late hit that just cost you 15 yards and a touchdown and the game. We want to see a team that can punt it properly at the end of a game, that maybe doesn't have a punt blocked or can kick it farther than 15 yards or return a kickoff or a punt or cover a punt or a kickoff. You're right. Nebraska fans know what good football looks like. They're not stupid. In fact, I think it's still one of the smartest fan bases in the entire country. They want to see clean offensive line play. They want to see running backs who have clear creases and able to get first downs and run with toughness. They want to see good football.
Yeah, I know, and I know exactly what you mean. And I think that the people listening to and watching this podcast, I'm sure many of you are Husker fans, and I think when you make that statement, everybody just kind of shakes their head in unison. We can define what it is. Okay, do this, do that, but we know what a good football team looks like.
Right.
And damn, we just haven't seen it. And it's to the point of, I mean, you're running through all these things here, and I'm laughing because you have to laugh because it's been so bad at times. But anyway, yeah, I heard your interview yesterday, and it was like, you know what? He nailed it right there. Well, we're not asking for the world.
No.
Just play a good football game.
You watch Wisconsin play or Iowa play, and they're not great football teams.
No.
But you know what they're going to be before the game. You know what they are during the game. And what you expected to see, you see every Saturday.
That's called an identity.
It's called an identity. There's an identity to those teams, and they don't ever beat themselves. Nebraska, guarantee you, every single Saturday, you don't go 3-9 and not find a way to beat yourself because they did it all the time. I mean, they were in more one-score games than any team in the history of college football last year. And it's the reason they lost is because they found a way to lose.
Yeah.
Those other teams don't do that. And as soon as Nebraska figures that part of it out, and that comes down to coaching. That is coaching. That's not the players that do that. Those players are coached to do what they do. And as soon as they figure that part of it out, they'll start to win games. Not probably 10, 11, 12, but certainly 6, 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there.
Players, I heard you say it yesterday too. Players do what they're allowed to do. Mm-hmm. So if you're fumbling the ball in practice or you can't catch a kick, there's a reason that you're still out on the field because you're allowed to do it. So you're right.
Been around Jay Foreman for a while, and he would say all the time, I guarantee you it's not just happening on Saturday.
Right.
Those things are happening during the week in practice.
Right.
And that's where players are allowed to do it. And it carries over to Saturday. Not all the time. Sometimes you have a flawless week of practice and it just doesn't go well on Saturday, but that's rare. That is rare.
No, you're dead on with that.
And hopefully that's where you have 4 new coaches that at least are allowed to or will clean this thing up offensively for Nebraska football. It's got to happen this year. Otherwise, Frost knows he's gone. He knows he's gone if it doesn't happen.
Yep, you're right. It's really a good point, and I'm just curious to see how it goes. So yeah, we will look forward next time to hearing Tom's practice report and what he saw on Thursday from the Huskers. Tommy, my friend, we're up against it here. So glad we could do this again this week. We're going to be doing them, a lot of them, here in the future. So thank you very much for being part of it. And to everybody out there, again, one more time, we're going to be going through some rebranding, some different things here coming up. We're really excited to bring it to you. We really are. We think you're going to enjoy it. We're going to have a lot more interviews of some very, very interesting people. But we're also going to keep talking sports and Husker sports. So we hope you guys will be along with us, be part of it for a long time to come. So please make sure, again, before we get out of here, that you hit that like button down below, you hit that subscribe button, and that you're following Tom and I on Twitter at 937 Tom Stevens and at Sando DFS. That way you don't miss anything that we have coming up here in the new future, and there's going to be a lot of it. Tom, again, thank you very much. And to everybody out there, thank you for joining us, and we will see you again next week. Bye-bye.